The NBA is the league of swagger, where players speak with their game. LeBron wears "I can't breathe." Courts are stamped with justice. This league sells rebellion, until one player turned that rebellion toward China. Then, silence. Enes Kanter laced up custom sneakers, free Tibet, free Uyghurs. No Beijing 2022. Then he called Xi Jinping a brutal dictator. No one in the league backed him. And then he was gone. Just erased. He didn't retire, he didn't quit, he was silenced. Because in the NBA, freedom was fine, until it pointed east. Chapter 1. The Dreamer Who Spoke Too Loud. He was never supposed to make it. Enes Kanter grew up in Turkey, a country where dissent can get you jailed, and silence is survival. As a teenager, he dreamed of two things: basketball and freedom. By 16, he was already playing professionally. By 17, he moved to the US, and by 19, he was a lottery pick in the NBA. He didn't just chase the American dream, he lived it. On the court, Kanter was a bruising center, tenacious on the glass, relentless in the paint. Off the court, he was loud, proud, unafraid. He spoke out against Turkey's authoritarian president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He called him the Hitler of our century, and paid the price. The Turkish government revoked his passport. Therefore, his family back home disowned him, forced to choose between their son and their safety. Turkey branded him a terrorist, his face plastered on wanted posters across Ankara. The Turkish government put a $500,000 bounty on his head. His own father publicly disowned him on television, the ultimate betrayal broadcast for all to see. After every game, he'd FaceTime his mother, sharing highlights, hearing her voice crack with pride. Now when he dialed, the screen stayed black. Not because she stopped loving him, but because loving him had become a death sentence. He couldn't travel, couldn't go home. But America gave him what Turkey never would, a voice. In 2021, he became a US citizen and changed his name to Enes Kanter, Freedom. It wasn't a gimmick, it was a statement, a tribute to the liberties he found in America, and a rebuke to the regimes that tried to silence him. For most NBA players, politics was optional. For Kanter, it was personal. So when he turned his gaze from Ankara to Beijing, the consequences would be even more devastating. Because Turkey could exile him, but China could make him disappear. Chapter 2. Sneakers versus Superpower. It started with a pair of sneakers. Not just any sneakers, custom painted, blazing red and yellow, with bold black letters wrapped around the sides. Free Tibet. Kanter wore them during warm-ups before a Celtics game in 2021. Cameras caught the message. China noticed. The next game, a new pair. Free Uyghur. Stop genocide. He wasn't whispering, he was shouting, calling out not just Beijing, but the league itself, and Nike. At first, the NBA tried to ignore it, but Kanter didn't stop. One night, his shoes read, "No Beijing 2022. Another, "Made with slave labor." And then came the quote that lit the fuse. Nike remains silent. You do not address police brutality in China. You do not speak about discrimination against the LGBTQ+ community. You do not say a word about the oppression of minorities in China. You are a hypocrite. Within hours, Celtics games were blacked out across China, but Kanter didn't stop there. The next game, his shoes had a new message. Xi Jinping, brutal dictator. That's when Beijing's patience snapped. Kanter wasn't some bench warmer. He was 29, a 6'10" starting center, a former number 3 overall pick, healthy, productive, the kind of player who doesn't just disappear, but after that season, he was gone. No press release, no explanation. The NBA didn't ban him, they didn't fine him, they didn't even explain. They just never called him back. Not a single team. The league praised using your platform until one man used it against the wrong empire. And the question no one wanted to answer. Because here's what no one wanted to admit. A healthy 29-year-old starter doesn't just vanish unless someone wanted him gone. Chapter 3. A League of Lions. Gone quiet. The NBA has never been shy. This is the league of swagger, where players don't just play, they speak. LeBron called out police violence. Coaches torched presidents. Teams boycotted entire games after Jacob Blake was shot. When America burned, the NBA didn't whisper, it led. So when Enes Kanter stood up, not just for a cause, but against a superpower, you'd expect the league to roar again. Instead, nothing. No press conference, no viral tweet, no hashtag. The league that wore "I can't breathe" held its breath. Every player saw what happened to Cantor. One season, healthy starter. Next season, untouchable. The message was brutal. Criticize America, we'll make you a hero. Criticize China, you vanish. Because deep down, they all knew, if speaking out could erase a player like that, what chance did anyone else have? And just like that, the loudest league in the world became silent. But one man's silence was the price of business. And in its silence, the league said it all. China mattered more than freedom. Before we dive into the next part, here's something that could seriously level up the way you invest. If you're looking for professional grade insight, not social media hype, you need to check out Seeking Alpha. Their Alpha Pick service gives you 2 hand-picked stocks every month with a proven history of strongly outperforming the market. These aren't random tips, they're backed by data-driven analysis and real performance. Want proof? Click the link in the description to see the track record for yourself. While you're there, you can also unlock a free trial and special discount on Seeking Alpha Premium, giving you full access to expert articles, quant ratings, and serious investor tools. Both offers are exclusive to this channel and available for a limited time. Click the link now to get started, and let's get back to the story. Chapter 4, the $1 billion gag order. The NBA didn't need a memo from Beijing. The warning was written in money. The numbers told the story. $1.5 billion streaming deal, 500 million Chinese fans, billions in player endorsements, all dependent on Beijing's approval. Many NBA owners weren't just team owners, they were investors in Chinese tech, real estate, and manufacturing. Billions were on the line. When China said jump, the NBA asked, how high? Because losing China meant losing everything. Criticizing China didn't just risk league revenue. It could collapse entire portfolios. But the real pressure came from Nike, the league's most powerful puppet master. Dozens of players, LeBron, KD, Kyrie, had lifetime endorsement deals. Their shoes weren't just made in China, they were sold to China. So when Enes Freedom took the floor in shoes painted with protest, it wasn't just a message to Xi Jinping. It was a shot fired at the business model of modern basketball. Nike went quiet. The league looked the other way. Players who had once marched in protests now moved with corporate precision. Because this wasn't the old NBA. This was a global empire where every player was a brand, and every brand had a bottom line. Fans kept asking, why didn't LeBron speak up? Why didn't anyone back Cantor? But the players already knew. China wasn't just a partner, it was a power broker. It could erase a game with one phone call. It could blacklist a brand overnight. And in a league where freedom was for sale, silence was the cost of staying in the game. But one player had already paid the price. Because while the NBA turned down the volume, China was turning up the heat. Chapter 5, the player they couldn't erase. No farewell game, no jersey retirement, no goodbye. But Enes Kanter got something bigger, a second chance to speak, because while his native country tried to jail him, and his adopted league tried to forget him, his new country gave him a voice. The United States didn't silence Enes Kanter. It gave him a last name. In 2021, he stood in a federal courtroom, raised his right hand, and became a US citizen. That same day, he made it official. Enes Kanter Freedom. It wasn't about branding. It wasn't a PR stunt. It was a declaration. He no longer played for a country or a league. He played for an idea. Freedom took his platform away, so he built a new one. He went to Congress. He met with world leaders. He gave interviews on Fox, CNN, and C-SPAN. One day, he was blocking shots in Madison Square Garden. The next, he was testifying on human rights. And in doing so, he became something no NBA player had ever been before. Not a rebel, not a martyr, not a brand, a citizen, not of a league, but of an idea. And that's when he realized something. The NBA could take away his career, But America gave him something they couldn't touch: his voice. Enes Kanter wasn't just forgotten by the NBA. He was silenced by a system that knows how to make people vanish, quietly, cleanly. He lost the game, but he kept the one thing no regime could take: his name. If you want to know how that system works, head to our sister channel, Silk Street. We're digging into the real story, how China uses money, media, and silence to reshape global power. And here on the Max Deal, we'll keep pulling threads inside the NBA, the agents, the billionaires, the deals no one's supposed to see. Subscribe and enable notifications. Stay sharp. I'm John, and this is just the beginning.